Okay, welcome to the Zoning Board of Appeals meeting for September the 9th, 2020. Nancy, please take the roll.
Yes. Member Garrity.
Present.
Member Scalzo.
Present.
Member Palladino.
Present.
Member Jackman.
Present.
Member Fury.
Here.
Chairman Ringwald.
I'm here. Okay, thank you everybody for your patience and for the input during the work session. We'll just go through this in order. The first order of business will be the approval of the minutes of July the 8th, 2020. Hopefully all the members had a chance to take a look at those. Anybody have any questions or concerns?
I'm good.
I will make a motion to approve the minutes for July the 8th, 2020. Do you have a second?
Second.
Nancy, please poll the board.
Member Garrity.
Favor?
Member Scalzo.
In favor.
Member Palladino.
Favor.
Jackman.
In favor.
Member Fury.
In favor.
Chairman Ringwald.
Abstain, I was not there. Okay, first we'll have 216 Dante Avenue, the new addition for a mudroom.
Good evening, Stephanie Fox, architect for 216 Dante Avenue.
Good evening.
Excuse me?
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Just to give a brief recap, an original application was made in June that was originally requesting a 3.9 side yard variance in order to construct a new one-story mudroom addition. After comments from the board and input from the community, at the July meeting, we resubmitted revised drawings that reduced the size of the addition from 7'9" by 9'7" to 6'6" by 9'7". 6'6" by 9'7" are the current dimensions proposed for the addition. This reduced the size of the side yard variance down to 2.7 feet. There was also a study done to see alternative locations and things like that, and I determined that a much larger structure was going to be warranted. These adjustments to the size of the structure and the reduction in the size of the variance appeared to be somewhat favorable to both the board and to the neighbor that was previously objecting at 218 Dante Avenue. And then discussions of landscaping, screening on the north side of the property were introduced. Between the course of the end of the July meeting and this current meeting, there was efforts made to reach out to the neighbor's attorney as well as the neighbor. The neighbor had released his attorney, and so Mr. Scalise is no longer representing the gentleman at 218 Dante Avenue. And it was recently brought to our attention that the neighbor at 218 Dante Avenue would not be attending the meeting, and he was going to be putting his house on the market for sale. That being said, my clients are still, amicable to providing landscape screening between the addition and the neighboring property. They feel it both benefits themselves as well as any potential new buyers that are going to be coming in and purchasing the house next door.
Excellent, thank you. Does any member have any questions?
No.
Well, I would like to, thank you and the applicant for agreeing to, shrink this and try to do everything within your power to make this fit into that space, and adding the green space, I think, will go a long way. I have nothing else to say.
No, I got it.
Anybody? Okay, the public hearing is still open on 216 Dante Avenue. Is there anyone from the public who would like to comment or discuss anything regarding the variance for 216 Dante? Seeing none, I will make a motion to close the public hearing. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Excellent. So as we stated, unfortunately, we are unable to vote on this evening, but we will at the next meeting. If
Okay,
you have
thank
any
you.
questions in the interim, please reach out to the building department, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, board.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
You're
Have a good
welcome.
Good
evening.
night.
Have a good evening.
Night.
You're
Take
welcome to
care.
hang out and be tortured some more, but you-
Hopefully one more time.
Good night.
Thanks for everything.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda would be 69 Main Street. The creation of to create additional medical offices.
That's correct. Hi, everybody. My name is Andrew Collingham. I'm the architect for the project at 69 Main Street in conjunction with the application at 22 Underhill, which is the two-family dwelling directly behind 69 Main Street. As per the last zoning board meeting, we received some comments about the configuration of the parking lot, which is proposed to be at the location of 22 Underhill, where the house is proposed to be demolished. And speaking with David Burke with the village, we thought it would be a good idea, and based on the zoning board's comments last meeting, to combine the Cameron Place municipal lot with our property at 22 Underhill to make one contiguous shared parking lot, where we were able to get 4 additional parking spaces by combining the 2 lots. There is a 2-way entrance exit on Cameron Place, and we're proposing a entrance only on Underhill Street for ease of traffic. Also, the major change from the last meeting was creating the entrance to the building 69 Main Street, where we are proposing to add an additional 2 additional doctor's offices, creating that entrance in the rear of the building, accessing the parking lot directly. One, to minimize the traffic and the flow of customers from Main Street to get them to the rear of the building. It seemed to be beneficial to all parties. Also, as part of the changes to this round of revisions, we had updated the room names on the plan for the doctor's offices to give everybody a better idea of how these rooms are being used, and how one doctor is able to serve all of these different patients and their patients' needs. And we also developed some layouts for the 2nd floor and the 3rd floor, which is the additional floor of the building. We also collected some data from the owner, who is the doctor at the existing building, Peter Zhang. He came up with a number of 2,267 patients that he saw at this location last year. Dr. Zhang splits his time from the Tuckahoe location with another location that he also has. So he is on average in Tuckahoe 2.5 days a week. The numbers came out to roughly 19 patients a day that he saw in this Tuckahoe location at 69 Main Street. And again, just to remind you that we are required to provide 12 parking spaces, 4 per doctor office. And we are providing 30, 14 of which are planning to be given to the village. That's their spots from the Cameron Place lot. So there are additional 16 spots that would be for this project, and the required is 12. So those are the changes since the last meeting.
Okay, I have a question. Hypothetically, the village decides they don't want to swap lots. You can build, you can correct me if I'm wrong. As of right, you can build a parking lot on that home 6 now. Cameron.
Correct. Well, we are seeking some variances for that 22 Underhill. But correct, our previous application consisted.
Guys, mute yourself if you're not talking, please.
Our previous.
Thank you.
That's right. Our previous application consisted of demolishing 22 Underhill Street, the house,
Right.
creating a parking lot with exactly 12 spaces, which would be used to suffice the requirements of the 3 doctors' offices. One of the drawbacks was that patients would have to park on a non-contiguous lot, and they would have to walk
Right.
on the sidewalk of Cameron Place, turn the corner onto Main Street, and then enter the building from the front. But because we're able to combine the lots, everybody thought it was a good idea to put the entrance at the rear of the building to mitigate any traffic concerns and just to make it a little more user-friendly.
Thank you. So do you have a verbal agreement from the village? David Burke in particular, or?
Not at this time.
But he seems to be.
He seemed receptive to it.
Good.
The linchpin in this is the zoning board, so I believe this is the first hurdle that we need to overcome.
So I would just like to compliment you on the parking design and layout. I think
Thank you.
it's much improved over the last one. I really like the combining of the two lots, as well as the entrance in the rear of the building to alleviate traffic on Main Street. So I think that's a very significant improvement over when we talked in July.
Yeah, I think we all agree. And again, I'm playing devil's advocate. If the village is unwilling, would you consider going forward with this project anyway and just seeking a variance for having a non-contiguous parking lot?
Correct. That was our original submission. That was what the application had stated. And again, we were able to get those 12 spots required by demolishing 22 Underhill Street, the house. So that would be, that was our original plan, and I guess that could be our backup plan if all else fails.
All right. So we're still on the parking lot, gentlemen. So earlier, Noah brought up some landscape.
Tom, can I just ask real quick? Cart and horse issue here. Is the village really waiting from us, Gary, for us to approve this before they, isn't the lot something they can sort out preemptively?
Yeah, I don't think it's been brought before the board yet, the village board. This is really the first time hearing, that the conversations with David. We have a work session with the village board tomorrow. It's probably the first time they're going to hear about this.
Are we allowed as a board, and excuse me, Tom, I don't mean to step on, are we allowed as a board to issue sort of a preliminary recommendation that they approve this, or are we outside our lines here? I don't want to it'd be nice to have that settled before we kind of figure out where we're going.
Yeah, if this board's inclined to say, hey, they think it's a good idea, I could take that back to the work session with the village board.
I would say that, Tom. Would you, David?
Well, this is why I asked the question, playing devil's advocate. So we can go forward assuming that the village is not going to approve this, and they have to put the lot in the space where the house is now. They have to come back for a variance for having a non-contiguous lot. That would be all they need. So I think we can go forward. I agree we should speak through Gary to the board saying we think it's a good idea to combine lots. However, if they don't, we could still approve this with a non-contiguous lot.
Let me add a couple things. Number one is I would advocate to the Board of Trustees that they seriously consider swapping the parcel of land at 22 Underhill and the Cameron lot. That way the Cameron lot is contiguous to the Masonic Temple building. So that's the first thing. They could swap
I'm
pieces
sorry.
of property.
Maybe I misunderstood. I thought Andrew said they agreed to combine the two lots.
Well, there's a difference of who owns each parcel of land.
Yeah.
And then how the lands combined are designed. So there's kind of a couple different things going on. So first, they should probably swap the land so that the Masonic Temple, owns the land closer. And then two is, I do think, as Noah suggested last meeting, that by combining the design, you get more parking spots, and it's advantageous to the village in general.
I would agree with David that those be our preliminary recommendations to the Board of Trustees while we, as you said, Tom, are still considering this regardless.
Okay.
And then by doing the land swap, if the other property came for sale and the village wanted to buy that property and then do something, then they have, the 22 Underhill lot and that the other property that they could rezone, do something, sell those, whatever. It gives flexibility in the future.
Right. If I could jump in, there are a couple other, things to think about for you and I guess the village board. One is, since there are going to be 4 additional spaces, in addition to what's required in the zoning, where should those spaces go? Should those spaces be, dedicated to the office facility? There is a demand for short-term parking spaces in the downtown area. It could be an opportunity to get a couple of spaces for shoppers, that might shop otherwise. And so I think that is certainly something that should be discussed with the village board. Also, the location of spaces, where the office spaces are in relation to the commuter or parking spaces. So there certainly are some things, details that would need to be worked out.
So the village lot today is just for commuters, correct? Until after 4
Correct.
o'clock and then it's
Right.
open? There's no meters in there now, right?
No. Hey, Andrew, the 4 spots that you're gaining with combining the lots, where are they located? On what property? Your property or the village's property?
So no property in particular right now. There are 3 spots that are straddling the property line. I don't know who those spots would go to. Back to the idea of the land swap, and the last zoning meeting, that was what we had talked about. So when I approached David Burke, I mentioned the whole idea of the land swap, and it seemed like a perfect idea. He was much more inclined to do the combined lot and give us an easement to use that lot. He thought it would get dicey to figure out the appraised values and who would get the short end of the stick if we did do the land swap. He did not seem too receptive to doing that.
Hey, Bill, you need to go on mute, man.
That's why we took the combined lot approach with a potential easement.
And that also gives the village board a little bit more leeway if they decide to do something in the future. For example, it's hard to tell what will happen, but there is another single family home, or a 2-family home, if that were to sell, the village would be in an opportunity to maybe combine those lots there. I'm not saying that the village would do that, but if they own the property, it would give them a little bit more of an ability.
I just don't love the idea of not doing a land swap, and then you're essentially going to have us approving a structure, obviously we're talking way down the road, but he's putting a new entrance in the back of the building with an elevator and stairs, and then all of a sudden there's no access to that.
Good point. Very good point.
So let's
Yeah,
say
I
in
think-
10 years, if the village changes its mind,
Right.
I don't want them to be able to close off access to that area.
I think it's very short-sighted to only look at appraised value of the actual land, because the village is getting a big advantage by having the continuous property and having the entrance in the back and stuff, and they get benefit of future flexibility. So I think it's more than.
Can we agree as a board, Tom and guys, to recommend David's proposal to the Board of Trustees? Obviously, let them do whatever they want, but that would be a recommendation as a land swap along with a combined parking lot.
Yeah, sounds good.
I would
Gary, I like it. Yeah, I think it's a good idea.
All right, Gary. So David, we'd like to propose David's kind of solution there if we can.
Yeah, I'll be with them tomorrow night, so I'll pass that along.
Okay.
I'd like to add one thing for the parking. If this is approved, don't they have 4 spaces off-site, which would free up for the village? Don't they have any off-street parking for the
Well,
owners?
they can sort that out, the village, and they can hash that out themselves, right? We don't have to get involved in that.
No.
That'll
free up for somebody else.
No, I think what Anthony, you're saying that we required him to have 4 spots when he opened that office. And
Right.
he put those off-site somewhere else.
Yeah,
So now you wouldn't have to require that anymore, because now he's going to provide for it
right.
in this other lot.
Now you have 4 extra spaces.
Yeah, so now we're opening up those 4 extra spaces
Yeah.
wherever he has. Andrew, do you know where he's renting those spaces from?
I believe they're in that Cameron Place lot.
So he's
Right.
using Cameron Place.
Yeah, okay.
So
Yeah, Gary, he rents those spots from us.
Okay. So that'll free it up to rent to another, commuters
Yeah.
yeah, we also talked about the idea of
or whoever.
Gary, there's a waiting list of people to get into that lot.
Yeah, I could imagine.
I just wanted to bring that up.
If I may, I met with the planning board last week. They wanted to share some of their concerns with the zoning board. The biggest concern being kind of the negative impact that a parking lot might have on the streetscape along Underhill and along Cameron Place. We discussed the possibility of improving the streetscape with, there's a stone wall right now at that corner. There's some landscaping there. So continuing the landscaping so you don't, it doesn't visually look like, the parking lot kind of bleeds into the sidewalk. There are ways to create a parking lot that are more harmonious with the surrounding streetscape. But the the planning board is concerned with the removal of a residential home with the placement of a parking lot. So
isn't that something the planning board can handle on their end, where they can require that as part of their approval while we allow for the parking to exist at least?
Well, to some degree, but once you approve it from the zoning board, then they have a less of an ability to
Okay.
control.
But I mean, that seems like something to hash out after the board of trustees grants, hash out afterwards, where we can require as part of the pre-approval that they align to the planning board's recommendations of appropriate plantings along these, along Underhill and Cameron Place.
Right. No, certainly, and I think you could put that as a condition, in the variance.
I just want to go, Noah, to address that point, though, I do want to go on record that, the intersection is not that residential. It's across the street from a fire department as well as a church. So it's not like it's in the middle of a residential area. I mean,
Right.
So, yes, there are some houses, but this is not,
Actually, the only house is the one next to it. Across the street is the parking lot.
No, I understand that.
No.
I told them those concerns with you, and
so it seems, we should definitely make it beautiful. I like things to be beautiful, but there's not a lot of houses there.
Yeah, that would be pretty unsightly though, without some landscaping around it. It really would. That'd be wide open.
Yeah.
I'm sure they'll do something nice. They're spending money on this project.
Well, I'm a little concerned, and I would agree with Noah that it needs to be a condition, not that we'll just throw it to the planning board, and then they got their approval, and they may turn around and say, well, the hell with it, we're not planting anything.
You can roll out your arborvitae expertise.
There you go.
Okay, should we move on to the building, Tom? Or no, is that the same? Oh, okay, never mind.
Any other questions on the parking?
I would like to add something, Tom, to Noah's comment when he mentioned about the stone wall that we have on Underhill. Once we have that done, we have to remember it's going to be a total of 3 parking lots. We're going to have one that belongs to town, and we have the corner of Cameron and Main Street. Currently, we have a small buffer and sections with not enough landscape. So ideally would have something that would be consistent in those 3 parking lots. We also have about, I'm trying to look on Google Maps here. We have maybe 4 existing trees. Somehow we might be able to reuse those trees in the new landscape created, as Noah is suggesting, for this new buffer, this view blocking on the new, but what I'm seeing is that we are thinking about the corner, but the main goal would be something consistent in along Cameron Place, and we do have parking lot on both sides. So just giving that food for thought to consider. If we all go on Google Maps right now, you can see we actually have corner of Van Dusen Place, more parking lot, and we do have a few trees.
Well, it seems like there's enough room for trees in the areas that the architect has laid out for plantings. I mean, it looks like plenty of room for multiple large trees.
Caroline, I don't remember. Are there any trees between the existing 2 parking lots on Cameron now?
Yes, there are.
Okay.
If I'm counting correctly, it's not that clear. The photo, I see 4 trees.
Yeah, I thought there was a buffer between the 2 lots.
There is a
That
buffer.
would be important that we try to keep that.
Yeah.
We can be careful. I mean, we've got a couple months left on this, I'm guessing. So we'll be very detailed and careful about that.
Well, I'm going on record, and Gary knows about this already. We could be overruled on trees in a heartbeat, which I have been already a couple of times by Frank DeMarco in the building department. And I've asked him ahead of time, and he said, that's fine. And then he changes his mind, probably for good reason. I'm not knocking Frank, but we could say, leave those trees between the two lots, and he can come along and say no.
Well, isn't it different that it's on the property and not on the village property? This is on the actual applicant's property, and we're mandating that they plant a tree, for example. They kind of have to. It's part of the pre-approval.
Maybe, all right.
I guess if there's a land swap, then it's technically the village's property anyway. So.
The other thing we should consider, and we discussed, Bill and we discussed that a few weeks ago about impervious surface. There's nothing really specific about it in the code, but it should be something that we perhaps can start.
They don't have to put in a dry well just like a resident does when they put in impervious surfaces?
Well, I'm talking about materials, right, Bill? That's what we discussed.
Right. So when a resident in the village builds a driveway, for example, they're required to put in a certain, and Bill and Mike, can tell me how much, they're required to put a certain amount of dry well in for that driveway in order that none of the water runs out onto the street. I'm assuming the same regulations exist for parking lots, that they're not allowed to build an impervious surface without installing a dry well. Is that correct, guys?
Correct. They must remain on site.
Okay, so I mean that's should be taken care of, I would hope. We'll see.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else on the parking? All right, we'll move on to the 69 Main Street. Creation of, oh, no, I apologize. I have to go back on the parking. I need to open the public hearing on the parking. I make a motion to open the public hearing on, 22 Underhill Street. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone from the public who would like to comment regarding parking on 22 Underhill? Seeing none, I'll make a motion to leave the public hearing open. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. 69 Main Street. Creation of additional medical offices. Did we do this already? Am I losing my mind?
No, we didn't do this one yet.
Thank you. I could have sworn we did.
Just the parking lot.
Just the parking lot. Thank you. Oh, boy. All right, the applicant, please state their name for the record again.
So, yep, my name is Andrew Collingham, the architect for also 69 Main Street, as well as 22 Underhill Street, the parking lot. At 69 Main Street, it's an old Masonic temple. As we discussed at the last meeting, there's an existing double height assembly space on the second floor. And the goal of the project is to add an additional floor in that double height to create another floor for doctor's office, as well as put a doctor's office on the second floor. I provided some additional photos per the last meeting's comments, page 7 of the revised set, just showing what the interior of that meeting space looks like.
And I wanted to just say thank you for that. I had requested that, and I appreciate it. And just for the public's, we're not talking about a gorgeous wood-lined exterior here. It's a pretty basic 2-story meeting area. Correct, Andrew?
Yeah, it's no frills or thrills.
Right.
It's about 20 feet floor to ceiling in there, give or take. So the ceiling heights of the second and the third floor future doctors' offices would be roughly 9 feet apiece. I think we had 8 foot and 10 feet on the submitted plans, but that's more or less a placeholder right now. We also provided some additional photos of what the basement looks like. They had a kitchen down there, and that was kind of like their coffee hour meeting space. Also provided.
Are you doing anything to the basement?
No, that would just be storage.
Okay.
Yeah, for equipment and whatnot.
And one other thing we had mentioned at the work session was, I think, this might be more planning board, but we would like to see some vestige of its previous usage and the life it had in the village. For example, the Masonic symbol on the front being located on the side or something like that, rather than just taken down and gotten rid of.
Gotcha. preserve kind
Yeah,
of
there's
the,
some kind of little history there.
Little piece of history, as long as it's somewhere, slightly visible and safe. I personally don't expect you to keep the Masonic Temple lettering on top or anything like that, but preserving that front medallion would be nice if you guys could do that.
yeah,
I
absolutely.
would be more inclined to ask you to commit to cleaning the outside of the building. It's a beautiful building.
Yes, it once was. So if you look at the middle image at the top of page 7, that's the rear, kind of the
Right.
side of the rear. It says left elevation. They didn't put too much detail on the rear of the building, and so I think that kind of works nicely with the revised proposal in that we're transferring the main entrance to the building to the rear, working with that new parking lot in the back. I think that could be a special place to create a lobby, an entrance, elevator, stair tower, do something out of glass, something, possibly a little more modern and kind of juxtapose against the traditional kind of Greek temple look it has going on right now.
No, it's great when you don't pretend that the new thing you've put on is old. It looks a lot better when you draw that distinction.
Yeah, I think that could really be special.
I think Tom's just more worried about, which I assume you're going to do if you spend all that money on a glass. He's just more worried that you're going to clean the sidewalls because they're disgusting and filthy and full of cracks. He just wants to make sure it's going to look pretty.
Not the sidewalks, the building.
Sidewalls.
Yeah, definitely. Especially the side that faces the village hall.
Yeah, exactly. David will have a prettier view here. Tom, do you want to move on to the interior? Can I ask a few questions?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
So, and we had covered some of this in our work session, but I just want to clarify that is Dr. Zhang correct?
Correct.
Okay, Dr. Zhang currently is the only doctor in residence, but I see on the plans that there's, for the other floors, there's 2 waiting rooms, whereas Dr. Zhang's current practice has 1 waiting room and 1 office. Dr. Zhang apparently also has 2 exam rooms, and then there are essentially, excuse me for 1 second, 7 essentially kind of treatment rooms where patients go for specialized treatment. Would that be accurate?
Yeah, that's accurate. We really only have Dr. Zhang's first floor office or his space to go off of. As you can see, there's multiple treatments. We have laser room, facial room, therapy room, acupuncture. There's a lot of services that he offers. So we're using that kind of model, that type of doctor, and translating that to the upper floors. Dr. Zhang is going to find a similar doctor to what he practices. So yeah, there are multiple offices, multiple waiting rooms. Dr. Zhang has more of a spa area on the right side of the plan. The left area is more for traditional medicine and sort of those practices. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of rooms, but as I said, we looked at the numbers from 2019, and he sees about 19 patients a day on average. So some patients are receiving acupuncture and waiting an hour plus while he's kind of popping in and out of other examination rooms and treatment rooms.
Yeah, I think my concern, and I understand what you're saying, but my concern is that essentially this looks like 2 doctors per floor, not 1 doctor per floor, especially given that the rear building, which, sounds like it's going to be gorgeous if you guys do it in glass, is going to be the main entrance. And right now, obviously we understand these plans are preliminary, but right now you would have your patients entering the rear of the building, and they would be kind of walking into a corridor that would then lead all the way to the front of the building to the waiting rooms. And again, you have twin waiting rooms, twin offices, and 4 exam rooms on each floor, correct?
Yeah, again, in the preliminary version, yeah, that's correct.
Okay, I mean, obviously you're going to go back to the drawing board for some of this stuff, but I mean and I'm assuming you'll talk to Dr. Zhang about what's usable, but the waiting room on the other side of where you're expecting people to enter seems a little odd, I would say.
Yeah, it does. Yes. So again, we just took Dr. Zhang's layout and copied that up.
Okay.
the main goal, I think, of this submission was to show what it could look like with the entrance in the back. The interior spaces and rooms would more or less placeholders for now.
Okay.
We
All
would
right. So in the next, couple submissions, after we find out a little bit more from the village, et cetera, we'll expect to see a little more tailored floor space based on the doctor's input and, kind of more of a flow-based layout, I assume.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, Tom, shouldn't we be talking about the percentages on the FAR? Because that's really what's important. What's allowed, what's existing, and what's being proposed.
So Andrew, do you want to address that? The FAR?
Yes, so that's one of the variances that we are seeking. Let me see if I have the numbers here. The existing FAR is 2.17. Allowable is 1.6. And we're proposing an increase in floor area ratio to a total of 2.75. So we're increasing nonconformity already in terms of floor area ratio. The building is very close to the property lines on all four sides. So it's kind of the hand that we were dealt. And again, that two-story space right now is not being used at all. And we had touched upon maybe just not doing the additional floor, but creating doctor's offices up there. We thought it would be a little strange to have a 20-foot ceiling in a doctor's office. And this just seemed like a very practical and a beneficial proposal to go with. But yes, we are increasing our already non-conforming FAR from 2.17 to 2.75.
Bill, do we have comparables? So for example, we have that place we just approved down on the river that's in the middle of construction right now. Do we know the FAR that we granted on that?
I don't, but when I get back in, I can take a look. But I can tell you the biggest FAR that we had in that zone was 100 Main Street, and it was less than 2, or just about 2.02 for 100 Main Street.
So here it's because the number of floors on such a small footprint.
Well, it's the number of floors that they're asking for. The number of stories in the zone is permitted is 3, but the FAR is, I think, 1.2 to 1.6, and that would only be if there was some residential involved in the biz res, and I think the business only is 1.6.
So a couple thoughts, Bill, opinions. What is the FAR on 115 Main Street and sort of the size? 115 Main Street is the medical building on Main Street. And so this, that building's pretty nice. We probably want this to be similar character. And then if you combined sort of this lot with the parking lot, that would reduce the FAR dramatically, right? I mean, that's one way you get the FAR down, right? If you consider it as, one project, one lot, then the FAR is actually much lower.
Sure.
If you combine them, it would be, yes. I'll have to find out for 115 Main Street, but don't forget 115 Main Street is in a different zone. One is biz res and this is just business.
Now 115 Main though is only business. That particular building doesn't have any residential. Is that correct?
Correct, but it's a different zone, different requirements.
Great. I would just like to, just for our next meeting, understand, where that one falls.
David,
and then
if you want, what I'll do is I'll email you the 115 Main Street, and then I'll combine both lots of 69 and 22 Underhill and let you know what it would be if we combine both lots.
That would be ideal. I'd love to know those data points. Thank you very much.
Makes a lot of sense. That's why, to me, it wasn't even an issue, but I should not have assumed that before. Because, you did the same thing on Verdi with 9 Verdi. I mean, the reason he got away with that monster house is he bought all the land behind.
Well, because that house on Verdi was all one lot and it was over 40,000 square feet.
Yeah.
even though it wasn't usable.
Yeah, but I should not have made the assumption. I'm glad Scalzo brought it up. Member Scalzo brought it up. It's perfect. Yeah, let us know what the fall would be with the contiguous lots, please.
All right, I'll try to get that out for you on Tuesday.
Great.
I think one of the things that should be realized with this here situation, okay, even though we're increasing with the variance, the FAR dramatically, I don't think that this doctor would go through the expense of putting an additional floor, okay, buying the building, putting in an additional floor, buying the house and putting in the parking space and everything else like that there, unless this was feasible, that he would get the, what do you call it, the variance on the FAR. That's really the main thing, the main variance that he's going for with this whole project.
That's correct.
You're correct. You're right. And again, I should never have assumed, I shouldn't assume. But, you know, I'll ask Andrew, did you guys assume that you would be, you know, taking over the contiguous lot?
No, we didn't.
All right.
We
I'm
knew that
wrong.
this was, yeah. You know, we wanted to have the conversation, and it's hard to get to this point without making the official submission and, you know, paying the application fees. We just wanted to start with you guys, start with the planning board, and see where it went from there.
All right, good. Any other questions?
Yeah, I brought up one question I brought up from the work session. This building with all the added steel and equipment and everything else, is the building sturdy enough to handle all this with people and everything else?
I don't know if the existing foundation can handle this, but the proposed additional floor would be designed so that the structural foundation for that floor would be independent from the existing building, just so we can avoid any potential conflicts or inconsistencies with the existing foundation. We want to make it completely independent.
Okay. Just wanted to bring that up.
That means new structural load paths down to the basement, new footings, new poured footings in the basement.
Okay.
Obviously, one thing we're concerned about as well, Andrew, is the beautification on Main Street as well, that entrance into Main Street, and you know, making that as usable and as pretty as possible.
That's a good point. What do you, if you have people coming and going from the rear, what do you plan on doing to the front? Leaving it as is with the steps?
Yeah, so the front would still be an entrance or an exit. Maybe people are walking up from the train, or, you know, if they're across the street, it's still going to be completely usable. But in terms of the aesthetic from the outside, I think it's our intention to definitely clean it up. Maybe we can install some uplighting, really to highlight the traditional features of the building. I think would be nice, but it's still going to be used as a means of egress.
Good. Thank you.
And it should be. We don't want that space dead.
No.
No, it has like a nice kind of buffer or a courtyard in the front of it. It's an elevated patio, if you will.
Yeah, don't make it like the Revlon building where they put flower pots on their stairs. Ugh. Any other questions?
No, good.
Okay, I'm going to make a motion to open the public hearing for 69 Main Street. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone from the public that would like to comment regarding the request for medical buildings at 69 Main Street? Seeing none, I make a motion to leave the public hearing open. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Next up, we have 356 Columbus Avenue, which is two parts: create two parking spaces and an area variance to finish a basement. If the applicant's here, please state your name for the record.
Yes, it's Lou Papaleo. I'm the owner of 356 Columbus Avenue.
Thanks, Lou. So why don't we start with the basement, if you don't mind.
Okay, sure. Yep. So the basement is basically just to finish. It's a two-family house. It's a side by side. The right side, which is the south side, has a finished basement already. So this is basically to match the right side. It's a left side unit. There's 9-foot ceilings down there. The FAR, which is existing, is 0.6. That the district there for me would be 0.5. So it's a minimal amount to finish that side, the left side basement. Wanted to add a bathroom down there, a full bath. The house has one full bath on the second floor. It's the original. It's not too big. It's a 3-bedroom apartment, and again, we're not changing the footprint or the character of the house in any way.
Thank you. And you're not putting any bedrooms down there, correct?
Well, no, it's just to finish that area off. There's a laundry down there. There's a mechanical room. And then there's another like water meter room down there.
Okay. Looks good to me. I don't have any other questions. Anybody from the board have any questions?
No.
Not quite. Just wanted to clarify to the public that, we do have concerns, as always, in Tuckahoe about new additions sometimes in basements, given the history of sometimes additional apartments. The applicant's application shows there's only one ingress to the basement. There'll be an emergency exit, if I believe, but it would not be easy to turn these into separate units. You also can enter from the first floor structure, but we don't have concerns that this could be used. It's also too small a space to be used as a standalone apartment unit. So it seems like a pretty cut and dry, good looking space to me.
Yes, thank you.
Good. Any other questions?
Nope.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to open the public hearing for 356 Columbus Avenue area variance to finish a basement. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone from the public that would like to comment? Seeing none, I'll make a motion to leave the public hearing open. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. The other half is 356 Columbus Avenue, create 2 parking spaces. So
Yes.
Lou, go ahead.
Yeah, so I purchased the house back in January. Again, it's a 2-family house, side by side. The left side unit, there is a macadam driveway. There are 4 outside spaces. I just noticed having a tenant there and then being there doing work myself. As you know, this part of Columbus Avenue is about 2 blocks from the train station. So Columbus Avenue being a busy road, and at times, even with that 2-car driveway on the left side, having to shuffle the cars in and out, it becomes monotonous. Nowadays, in today's day and age, having both 3-bedroom apartments, again with a finished basement, you may have a family of 5 or 6, especially having the schools in Tuckahoe or with Eastchester. With that, like myself, I have 3 children. 2 are in college right now. They both have a car. They have to drive themselves back and forth to college. I have a car, and my wife has a car. There is no street parking at all in that area right there. There is no one, directly across the street from me either. So it's actually the space on the side, which is the south side, the right side. It's really like where that driveway would go. It really is like dead space. It would be perfect, to put a pervious driveway. We definitely do, a tasteful job with it. I was going to line the property with my neighbor, John Kelly right there, who I spoke to about it, with some, I think we had discussed the emerald green arborvitaes. And then if there's some other landscaping that you guys wanted us to do, as I mentioned in the work session, we kind of took a lot of time to restore this house. It's an old colonial built in 1923. I think, again, that, I think we did a tasteful job. I think it's something to, that the neighborhood could appreciate as well. And I have some great neighbors there, so they also agree with me. But I think, for someone to be able to pull up on the right side and access the right side apartment, being that there is no street parking, that was my reason to come before you guys. I spoke to the building department about it, and they also felt because of that situation, again, having a busy road, if you had to kind of shuffle cars and bring them both in and out on the left side where the existing driveway is, it just becomes something where, it's just more, feasible, and it kind of works well for, someone who's going to live on the right side. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I didn't know I was muted. How many people live there now, please?
No, so, right now we're under construction, so there's no one living there right now. But each apartment, again, has 3 bedrooms on the second floor. The first floor is the foyer, a dining room, a kitchen, a living room. And then this particular unit that I'm asking for, the right side south unit, it has the finished basement with a full bath. So again, you would have, a larger family that would, probably rent that unit. And, it just, again, would make it more accessible to have that driveway there on the right side.
Okay, thank you. As we pointed out in the work session, members of this board will take a look at the property. We are reluctant to grant parking in front of houses or sides of houses if it takes away the green space. We have granted a few based on the location of the house. In particular, we did one on the south end of Lake Avenue by the racquetball court. Everybody else on the block with contiguous houses had that same configuration, so it would be kind of hard to tell that person no. Based on that, I don't have any further questions of you regarding the parking. I will take another look at it myself, and I encourage all board members to do the same. Does any other board member have a question or concern?
Tom, if you don't mind for a minute or two. Again, I love what you're doing with the place. I love the fixing it up. I love what you're doing with the basement. The driveway, a little less so for me, I got to tell you. I'm just being blunt with you. I hope you appreciate it. I'm not going to blow smoke up your here. The side of the drive, is it correct that you actually already have a tandem driveway on the left side? It looks like it's a 2-car garage and a 2-car driveway.
Right. So that's true. It's just, again, so the outdoor spaces, the outdoor space, it would be a total of 4 spaces that are on the outside, on the left side. Right.
Right.
So having, a side-by-side, 2-family, each having 3 bedrooms. Again, the right side has the finished basement. If you did have a larger family, which which you may get having 3 bedrooms and the finished basement, you could have anywhere from 2 to 4 cars. Something on the right side just for accessibility to drop off your groceries, the kids from school. It just does make sense. In the winter with snow, they're not walking around. Plus, it's kind of hidden.
I mean, I appreciate that, but at the same time, they're looking at the front of your house about 5 feet further to get to their stairs versus the other stairs.
Well, it's not 5 feet. It's just out of convenience. But if you did come by, I'd be happy to show you. Okay. It's kind of the way that the driveway would be set. It's kind of set back from the road, and if we put those bushes in, I think this particular house being right kind of in the middle of Columbus with no street parking, it may be something that if you guys would consider, I think it would be helpful. I think that space for me right there is kind of like dead space.
Yeah.
And, again, I'd be happy to show you guys around if you came by.
I appreciate that. I mean, as Tom mentioned, the problem is you have very little green space around this apartment, and I appreciate that it's dead right now, but it is green space, and it's something that someone could put in. You could make it a very nice patio area, grass area, something like that right now. I'm just kind of, playing devil advocate here. And then additionally, on the other side, where you have the tandem driveway, how much space is there between the driveway and the property itself? Because you mentioned that you're putting an emergency egress from the basement, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And what, you have about 3 feet of kind of green grass area between the driveway and the side of the house, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, that, right. Well, I mean, that's under construction now, but that there, with that, egress, we probably have to make that, that walkway like a little bit wider just to, kind of be feasible to kind of, enter and exit from the side to the back of the house.
Okay. All right, that was it for me. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah,
We appreciate your parking difficulties. It's just, trying to make the right decisions.
No, listen, I understand. Like I mentioned, if you maybe, again, using the pervious surface, there is a patio in the back, or, we had filed for a patio in the back. With the pervious surface, maybe it's something that we consider. If we had to make it a little bit smaller, maybe just, for someone to kind of get in and out, I think that would be great. Again, having, each having 3 bedrooms each, and being that there is no street parking at all.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
I think you're doing a good job, and we need to take a look at it. Also, something you didn't point out, but I deal with practically every time I drive down that street. People who don't have anywhere to park will park their car to take their groceries out, and that's pretty dangerous. I know it's a police enforcement issue, but if we can avoid an accident, I think that would be helpful. But yeah, if you could take a look at that and see what you can do to maybe shrink it, move it, or consider parking more cars on the other side, that would be helpful.
Okay. All right.
And again, I will ask all board members to go by and take a look at this.
Yes.
But
Great,
yeah,
thank you.
again, I want to echo what was already said. You're doing a wonderful job on that building. It looks great.
Thank you again. I appreciate
Yes,
it.
it
Thanks.
does.
Thank you.
Any other questions? With that, I'll make a motion to open the public hearing for the parking of 356 Columbus Avenue. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone from the public who would like to comment? Seeing none, I'll make a motion to leave the public hearing open. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll see you next time. Next up is 91 Lincoln Avenue, area variance for parking in the front. If the applicant's here still, please state your name for the record.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Malinsky, the architect, presenting 91 Lincoln Avenue. So the existing driveway on the site is too narrow to open the car doors. And it's also too short to accommodate 2 cars, which is a requirement for the zone that it's in, A5. And the existing garage is also too small to even get a car inside. So therefore, we're requesting a variance to widen the driveway at the front of the house. The reason for this is Lincoln Avenue is a very busy road. Cars come quickly down that hill to the train station. My clients would like to be able to park 2 cars in their driveway for the safety of their family and especially their young children. Due to the narrow site and the narrow garage door, widening the driveway will extend into the front yard. We will be adding a new stone retaining wall, which will be attractive instead of concrete or something like that. We're also maintaining a planter at the front of the house, between the house and the driveway, to provide green space. There will also be a green space on either side of the front stair. So although the driveway has been widened, we feel that the house and the property will continue to have a nice appeal from the street.
Okay, thank you. I have to admit, it looks quite nice in your rendering of what it would look like going forward. And again, looking, I didn't study the plans well enough. Just looking at the picture, it looked like it had enough space for 2 tandem cars, but it does not. This is going to change my personal view to some extent. I don't have any other questions. Does anybody have any questions on the board? Nathan?
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit, look, it's obviously a pretty wide driveway now. It's 22 feet is what's being proposed. So it does take a lot of the front yard up. We had talked about in the work session that the lot, a parking spot is generally 9 feet wide. So if you put 2 parking spots, that may only make it 18 feet wide. And so if it was kind of doubled rather than to be 22 feet, be 20 or 18 feet, it would be not as, there'd be more green space essentially. So that is, one concern we have throughout the village, of course.
I would agree with Member Scalzo. If you could shrink it on the right side and maybe we can grant you another foot on the left side, that would go a long way to it not being so much in the front yard. Something to consider.
Tom, one extra comment on Lincoln Avenue. The sidewalks, we have it partially with a grass space, and the other part of the sidewalk is for the pedestrian. In only one case, we have side-to-side access to the garage with a curb cut. But in this case, just to add to consideration, we're going to have a double space for 2 cars once we have that change, that variance. So if you go to Lincoln Avenue, you'll see on both sides of the street, that's how the sidewalk is configured. We have grass along the street and then pedestrian. So that will be part of the curb, right, Stephanie?
I'm sorry, I don't quite understand the question.
No problem. So the sidewalk in Lincoln Avenue is very unique. You have along the street, you have grass, and then you have cement for the pedestrian. Once you propose that double access to the garage, you're proposing also a change in that sidewalk. And along Lincoln Avenue, just for the consideration of the board, that will be the only access where we're going to have a cut that is double-sided instead of a single access to the garage.
So Carolina, what is your concern? They're taking away a parking space from the street by doing that?
No, I think she wants the sidewalk to be continuous. So if you look at the rendering,
Yeah.
is that correct, Carolina? So the rendering that you're showing is just asphalt from the street all the way to the house.
Yeah, I don't think
and
you could do that. Yeah.
It breaks up the sidewalk, and so we probably want the sidewalk to continue through. So you'd have, asphalt, sidewalk, asphalt, or if not asphalt, some other material.
Well, absolutely. I don't think you'd be allowed to do that. Yeah, I didn't catch that. You're right. That's exactly what I have and everybody else on my block has. It's
One example, this was done on 69 Lincoln Avenue, and they had the continuation of the cement block as part of the pedestrian pathway. Just to keep that in mind on your design, Stephanie.
But I'm glad you brought that up, Carolina, because now I'm concerned, you are taking away some space here in the street for parking.
That's right.
I just checked on Google Maps. Looks like 135 Lincoln has a similar situation where there's tandem parking spots. But they kept the sidewalk going straight through it.
I don't think you have a choice. I mean, the village, Bill, correct me if I'm wrong, but you can't take the sidewalk out.
No, but the other thing to remember is nobody's going to park there on the street because it's too close to the corner.
Oh, okay.
So you don't have to worry about people parking there anyway. And if you're worried about it, just restrict the curb cut a little bit so it's not as wide, that's all. And they'd still be able to access 2 spots.
Right. Good.
Are you guys
we
looking
could
at
definitely.
are you guys looking at the
Sorry.
drawing, the Photoshop drawing, or the actual rendering of the design of the driveway?
Both.
I'm actually looking at Google Street View.
So I think, Stephanie, the sidewalk would still go through.
Yes, it's actually on the drawing. I failed to put it in the Photoshop image, the sidewalk continuing through, but it is actually shown on the drawing that was submitted. It's for that inconsistency.
No problem.
Stephanie, you would be able to cut down on the curb cut, correct, and still be able to access driveway?
From what I proposed, you mean? I had proposed a 24-foot curb cut.
Could I clarify a couple points real quick? Street parking is allowed on Lincoln actually at your property and further down, correct?
Yes.
At the client's property. So there's actually cars parked out front of the property right now on Google Street View, and that parking continues all the way down the street. So street parking is not a huge issue. And I'm afraid I got to be the bad guy here, which is that we're not just using a little bit of the yard. And I know that Member Scalzo discussed some ways to kind of modify this, but we're talking about no yard, essentially. You're talking about a 4-foot strip of grass between the stairs and what is going to be asphalt. So essentially we discussed this in our prior application, that we have very few neighborhoods in this area where we allow essentially the entire front space of the property to be paved, which is what we'd be looking at here. You'd pretty much be left with stairs and a small divider strip. As far as I can tell, the driveway length, I'm going to guesstimate based on your drawings here, is about 32 to 33 feet, correct?
The existing 31 feet to the property line.
Okay. I understand that the village requires 36 feet, if we ask someone to build a new parking space. However, a Lincoln Navigator, for example, is about the only vehicles that's 18 feet long. So unless you have 2 Lincoln Navigators, you should, it's 31, 32 feet is pretty decent length. Also, as far as if the driveway is too narrow for the individual to open their windows, which I completely understand, I can see that on the picture, seems like a pretty miserable thing. There's a 5 to 6 foot space, as we mentioned during the work session, to the left of the current driveway that is currently unused with the exception of plantings. We understand the client wants to retain that for plantings. However, if driveway is the priority here, it feels like that should be an option that's examined. Turning the front of spaces that are currently in a incongruent, excuse me if I've used the wrong word there, neighborhood. We don't see a lot of other properties in this area who have gotten rid of their entire front yard. I understand I'm using entire somewhat liberally, but it is a lot of paved area to the front of this property, which is a beautiful place. But we have this specific zoning requirement in place for this exact thing. And it feels to me that this is not a situation where this is a minor thing. This is almost the entire front of the space. So something we have to examine very carefully. And as Tom mentioned, we don't usually grant these. Is that unfair?
Can I add something there?
Sure.
So the existing driveway, you mentioned 2 Escalades. We could barely fit a Subaru Impreza in, which you can't really get a smaller car other than a Mini Cooper, perhaps, into the driveway, and we can barely open those doors. Secondly,
saying length. Sorry, sir.
He's
I just meant
talking
lengthwise.
With regards to the landscaping, we are retaining a planter section in front of the house, as well as a pretty large section. If you come to the house and look, it would be a fair amount of landscaping we would be maintaining as well. She had actually produced some renderings of what the landscaping would look like after the driveway was put in place.
We have a way to show that, Tom, or whoever's running the meeting? I can at least do that here.
I can't tell from the drawing how wide that raised yard is going to be on the left of the steps.
And this is the current property.
The green area to the left of the steps would be 6 feet wide.
6, all right. All right, again, we're here to help you, not to hurt you. And I'd like to be able to come up with something that works for everybody. But the drawing as is really does, as Member Jackman pointed out, take away too much of the front yard. So I'm back to thinking if you could take a foot or so off the left side and a few feet off the right side, you should be able to accomplish basically the same thing. I get it. Yes,
Well,
I'm going to park 2 Escalades in the driveway. I'm sorry.
I just want to remind people that you guys, sorry, it's late, that we cannot fit 2 cars behind each other, which is why we're asking for the widening of the driveway. So unless the driveway is wide enough to accommodate 2 cars, we cannot fit 2 cars in the driveway.
But I thought I had enough, barely enough. If you go bumper to bumper, you can't get 2 cars in there?
We cannot. It would extend into the sidewalk.
Can you fit cars inside the garage?
We cannot fit a car in the garage. We tried. We bought the house not realizing that we actually couldn't fit the car in the garage. We tried, and with even how narrow our car is, we can't park it in there.
The house is beautiful and redone, but we should probably point out it was built in 1928. So.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Which is why it was built for a Model T Ford.
Yeah, so it's not exactly built for modern day cars like many of our garages.
I mean, I would say that.
I'm sorry. Do you use the garage for storage and things? I mean, I'm thinking off the top of my head here. Can you take down some of the garage and make it like a carport and go to the left? And have
that
enough
would be quite expensive, and I imagine more difficult to get approved than widening the driveway.
Wouldn't be more difficult to get approved by my standards, but I know it would be.
Well, we would have to remove the foundation of the house.
They have a second floor above the garage, so that'd be pretty tough.
So that if I could just explain one thing, so you don't feel like I'm personally attacking you, and I do want to clarify, like Tom said, we are here to help. However, the problem we face as a board is that everyone in Tuckahoe, including myself, I've got the same issue. I can't get anything but a Mini Cooper into my garage. We've all got these issues because my house is 1898. They had horses when they built my garage. We empathize, but the issue is that we have so many homes in the exact situation you're talking about here, is that when we grant these variances, we have to think about the fact that it's setting a precedent, and that's part of the issue here. I just want to explain to you, it's not a thing about you or your property specifically, but that's part of the reticence.
I understand.
And that was it for me, Tom.
All right. Anybody else have any points, questions, concerns?
I got one. That left side of the wall. Can you angle it in, take some of it off instead of the whole thing moving in?
Stephanie.
Left or right?
The left.
So you can open doors. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, instead of taking the whole thing off, angle it in, make it a little wider on the bottom.
But he says you can't fit 2 cars.
And then cut some, like you said too before, cut some off the other side.
I mean,
both my cars and see if they'll fit. When are you out?
I think you guys have heard some of our concerns. So I think the architect and the applicant can discuss various options of kind of shrinking the ask. So we would just ask you to brainstorm on that and consider that. And I would just add the idea of a 24-foot continuous curb cut is pretty extreme as well. So if you can get the curb cut down a little bit or make that a little more elegant, I think that would be helpful as well.
Okay. Is there a minimum width that we could go to accommodate 2 cars? So we know, that you guys would approve.
There's no guarantee because this is obviously a voting issue, and I may be the odd man out here, but to be honest with you, I don't want to give you the side-by-side. I'm happy to let you go as far as you want on the left side and even give you a couple feet on the right so you can get in and out comfortably with your kids and not have to struggle. Enough room to open those doors and get around the doors. But I'm not okay taking that much of the front green space away due to the precedent issues. But again, I'm one member of 5, so that's the issue here is you kind of have to go with what you want, and if that's what you want really bad, we vote on it.
Stephanie, could you get away with an 18-foot curb cut?
And have the driveway at what width, do you mean?
Well, leave the driveway to width, just cut down on the curb cut so it's not that noticeable on the street and still be able to get both cars in.
Yeah, no, I think we could definitely do that.
Yeah, but with that build, they're still taking out that big chunk of the front.
Yeah, and that
I don't
seems
think they
to
have
be the
much
main
of a
concern.
choice in order to get 2 cars in.
Stephanie, I don't have the drawings with me, but from the property line where you currently have the car all the way to the side, left-hand side property line, what is the dimension you have once you remove the buffer? From the building to all the way to the property line on the left, not accounting the buffer.
From the garage door to the property line?
From the building wall?
From the wall on the right over to the fence on the left.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay. We have 6'6". That includes the retaining wall.
Really? That's it?
No, I think because then you wouldn't be able to fit the car. What I'm asking is the distance between that stone wall where you currently have your garden all the way to the wood fence.
That's what, it's a 6 feet.
Oh, that little
That's
piece.
6 feet?
This piece here.
From this wall here, I'm going backwards. From this wall to the fence?
The other side.
Yeah, I'm going backwards. I can't do
nice.
things backwards.
Are you right?
That's only 6 feet?
The side yard there, 6 feet.
And the driveway is currently 9, is that correct?
No,
The driveway,
it looks at least 4 feet, that garden, plus at least 6 feet for the car.
Oh, so which
oh,
one?
the car is 9, the existing driveway is 9 feet wide.
Okay.
Okay.
So it's 15 feet from the wall to the fence.
Yes.
Yes.
So it's 15 feet total, right?
Yes.
So
I
what
don't know about other members, but originally I said no to that, but I'd be more inclined to go along something like that, where you can park 2 cars side by side.
I will be okay with that. If you do literally on the line property, I know you want plantings there, but that's the only way I can see you getting 2, is if you put your retaining wall on not on, but obviously on your side of the property line. So you're talking about maybe 9-10 inches there. You're going to gain 5 feet there, and then you would only be taking a couple feet of space off your front yard to get you that 18 feet.
Yeah, I like that idea. You
don't have to park the cars right by each other either. I know that's still going to be tight because 9 feet, but you're going to have this ability because it's a 31-foot driveway.
Right. Yeah, it's the it's having the retaining wall there, still presents a problem with opening doors.
But again, if you're parked like this, so essentially you have essentially an 18-foot driveway for 1 car if you're parked like that. There should be plenty of room.
Yeah.
I understand it's not perfect and not exactly what you want, but I mean, again, just speaking for me, it's too much of an ask how much front yard you're taking out there.
I agree. I don't want to send you away with nothing to consider, and then you come back next month and we're looking at the same thing again. So,
Guys, it still has the length problem, though. It's still only 30 feet deep or 31 feet. So, it's not wide enough to go parallel. And
No, that's what I'm saying,
If you go
David,
like
it would
this,
be.
you got to... No, it's at 15 feet. That's not wide enough to
No,
have 2
18.
cars.
So what I'm saying is take that 5 feet on the left, just take 3 feet on the right, not
Yeah.
however many they're doing right now. I'd be interested to see
No.
how that looks.
No, right now it's 9 feet wide for the driveways that exist now.
Yep.
Plus 6 feet all the way to the property line is 15 feet. That's not
Plus
wide
another
enough for
3
two
feet
cars.
out of the front yard.
3 feet on the right side.
So I'm saying
Oh.
go out a little bit to the right, take all that room to the left, and then they have at least a little more front yard.
All right. Yeah. I mean, it's,
But that would be including the retaining wall. So I don't think we'd be able to take that much from the left side, correct? Because the retaining wall itself is at least 2 to 3 feet.
3 feet.
That's a big retaining wall.
That's a pretty fat.
It is a wide retaining wall.
yeah, and moving 2 walls is more expensive, as you guys can imagine.
Yeah. Well, I mean, their proposal, they have to build a wall in the back to keep some of the garden in the front. I don't see how it would be any more money. I don't know. Things to consider, please, to bring back. Because again, like we keep saying, we're trying to help. You have any questions of us, Stephanie?
So basically, if we did something along those lines, it seems that would be favorable.
I'd be more inclined to be favorable to it, yes.
I can't guarantee, but I would also be more inclined. I would have to see how it looks, obviously, but
Yeah, me too. See how it looks.
Yes.
right now you have a very nice, if you're looking at the house from the street, and I understand your difficulties, but it looks like a very nice property with the space you have in the front. And I'm loath to turn that into blacktop.
Member Palladino, you have any comments on this?
I'm more amenable to the removal on the left side and just the minimal amount on the right side.
Anybody totally opposed to that? Member Scalzo?
No, I'm not. I'm not opposed to it.
Right.
I'm probably more favorable than the other people to going in a little further, but
all right.
No,
I just want to give them something to work with, so they don't come back with the same drawings next month and we're like, well, sorry.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
All right. Anybody else? Any comments? Member Garrity, anything?
I like the idea of moving it over on the left more.
All right, folks, thank you. So I make a motion to open a public hearing regarding 91 Lincoln Avenue. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone from the public that would like to comment regarding 91 Lincoln Avenue? Seeing none, I'll make a motion to keep the public hearing open. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, we'll see you next time. Thank you very much for your patience.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, why are you always last? Every time you.
I don't know. I got to talk to Marianne about this, but I'll keep it short. I did submit a day before the deadline, so I was very surprised.
Okay, so please introduce yourself for the record.
Yes. Good evening, Chair, members of the board. Louis Campana, architect for the applicant, John Ulmer of 160 Dante Avenue. Before you this evening, we have a legal non-conforming 3-family dwelling in the A5 zone, which is a single-family zone. And the reason why we're here is because anything added to a non-conforming use needs to be seen by the board. And what we're proposing to do, because of the drastic grade change from front to back, we are proposing to remove an existing shed roof off of first floor footprint for the access, and then replace that with a deck, a roof terrace, for second floor access to the rear yard. Currently, the second floor unit does not have access to the rear yard, and they have to traverse down through the front of the house, around the entire house, and up about another 15 steps to the rear yard. Currently, the backyard is not used and hasn't been used for quite some time. It's a bit unkept, and by introducing this new amenity to the structure, we feel that'll be a space that would be used quite frequently, and would just be nice for the property and increase property value for sure. Any questions?
I just want to comment, I think it would fit well. That's really much the only thing I have to say. It's a rather unique building. I kind of like it a lot. You don't see many homes like that. And I think it's a good use of the space.
No. Yeah.
Yes.
It's the old
Mr. Chair.
25 foot by 100 foot lot.
Mr. Chair, if I may, this is also needs site plan approval.
Yes.
They did go before the planning board for a work session, and the planning board looked like they were in favor of this, and they want to pass that along to this board.
I think it looks gorgeous. It'll be a nice addition to the property. You're not taking any, by using the roof, you're using existing space, and it's going to look pretty sharp. I think my only question, I don't quite understand how the stairs work. I'm having trouble. You have to excuse me being an architect. I'm having trouble finding how the stairs are they already existing, or are you adding to them?
So the stairs are all existing so far. Not so far, sorry. They're all existing. If you look at the site plan on, hey, Gary, to make this easier, do you have the ability to allow me to share my screen?
You tell me, Lou. How do I do it?
Because I already tried to do it, and it says that you have to,
Grandpa, you got to go under share content. You have a little drop down, and it gives you settings, and it says who can share, and it should have a button for anyone.
Right.
All right, walk me through that once again, Nathan.
So it's under where that green share content is. You should have a little drop down arrow, and then it should say who can share content.
Gotcha. I've tried this before, and it hasn't.
Oh, I see. Green share screen. Oh, okay.
But only the host can do it.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I was misreading the plans. I apologize. So yeah, it's just a step down essentially from the deck to the property.
Yeah. So exactly. So here, let me just show you this.
I got lost in another set of stairs and thought that's how you were getting up there.
Right. So this is the current situation.
There you go.
Look at that.
So what we're doing here, we're removing this. So this is a shed roof. It has a slight pitch to it. We're removing it, replacing the framing, new deck, new terrace on top. This will be a sliding door. Now, there is a little bit of a differential here. We're going to be overhanging this. This side of the house is actually supported by a retaining wall. That's the back wall of the house up to the first floor.
Wow.
So there would be one step introduced to get down to the existing grade.
Okay.
What is this property here behind the house where the leaves and, is that part of this yellow house?
This is the rear yard, correct?
That's the rear yard, okay.
Yes.
So yeah, you mentioned before, it was unkempt, and what does that have to do with them putting a rooftop terrace there? Does that mean
Because no one can get back there.
Well, no one can you can get back there, but it is not used. It was always unkept. And quite frankly, the stairs that are there now on the side of the house to go up to the rear yard, about 17 feet in incline, and they're very tight, and the risers are very awkward, and
and this is around the right side of the house, correct? So kind of on the left side as we're facing this drawing?
Yeah. So
where that planter is where you currently come up the stairs.
Exactly. I go to the site plan. So here, these are the steps that go up to the rear yard.
All right.
Right there. But this second story, right? This is the roof terrace here. The second story only has access through the house, out through the front door, around, and back up. Yeah.
So this does bring me to the question I was going to ask, which is when they get to that back space. So if you leave it on the drawing, right where your arrow is, okay? Mm-hmm. What's the drop there from the yard down to the steps by the time you get to the bottom of that first flight?
So this is, I would say, approximately 6 feet.
Okay, because I'm a little, is there currently a fence or something? If they're going to be using this backyard a lot more, is there something stopping people from falling down those steps?
No, so part of the building permit application will include railings coming down here and also a guardrail over here and fencing around the property.
Okay, that was my only concern. I think everything else looks fantastic.
Cool.
How about a ramp from the terrace to the yard?
I'm sorry, A
A
ramp?
ramp. Just go right over the, like, right over the wall.
You know, maybe we'll apply for an elevator. And so,
I think it looks great, man.
thank you.
Yeah, it does.
And that's it.
I mean, I trust you obviously to put that railing in. That's my only concern is a safety issue.
Of course.
But is that going to be in his request here, Bill, or where does that go? Is Bill still on?
Bill?
Yeah.
Bill, you're muted, Bill.
Yes, that's not part of this request.
So who would make sure that that was there, just as part
Well,
of his?
we would as the building department for safety.
Okay, but I mean, he's not doing anything on that space, so it's more just kind of up to him, right?
No,
Oh, okay.
it's up to the building code. When he starts making that space accessible, he's got to make that safe.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I just want to make sure that that goes in there. That's all.
Sure. The owner and I have had discussions about that, and that will certainly be included in the building permit issuance
All right.
or resubmission to the building department.
All right. I appreciate that. Thank you.
No problem.
You do good work, man.
Yeah, looks good.
Thanks, Nate.
Any other questions, concerns? So most importantly, Lou, thank you for teaching us how to share screen and put up.
Oh, I got one.
I've done a lot of these, Tom.
I got one question.
Sure,
Before
yes.
you go. Is there going to be any lighting back there? Any extra lighting?
So let me share my screen again. Hold on. So if you look at the rear elevation, I am proposing 3 exterior fixtures. These are just circles indicating where they'll be located. But yes,
Okay.
by code, we need exterior fixtures, at an entrance or exit from the house.
All right.
I mean, not that I would require, I would suggest there be some lighting on those posts leading down to the yard, especially given that that's going to be such a tricky area with those stairs and railings, et cetera.
Right.
But
Yeah,
obviously,
you could see it here. I mean, it's
Yeah. Oh, there you go.
so I'm just nervous about that little intersection right there at the
Right there.
top. No, further up, right where the steps
here.
come down, and then there's that whole little area makes me a little squeamish.
Yeah, we're gonna have
That's
we're
the
gonna have
dad
railing
in
here.
me. The dad in me just gets nervous.
I'm with you on that.
All right.
So Lou, you have no, I wasn't being really sarcastic. You have no consideration of putting a walkway plank type thing from the back of the new proposed deck to the yard area?
That's what that step is there,
Well,
Tom. He
you see
shows a
this
little
step right here, Tom?
Yeah.
So we have an opening, if I go back to the plan, we have an opening right here in the rail, which
Right.
has a step that goes down to that rear
Oh,
area.
okay. I missed that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No worries.
Sorry, Tom. I thought you were asking about a ramp versus a
Yeah,
step.
that's what I thought.
Oh,
No.
okay. I thought I was, I mentioned the elevator, but that's why I thought you meant getting from the backyard to the, to the in front.
Oh, that's perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
No problems.
Any other questions or concerns?
No.
Okay, seeing none, I will make a motion to open the public hearing regarding 160 Dante Avenue. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone from the public that would like to comment regarding 160 Dante Avenue? Area variance for a rooftop terrace? Seeing none, I'll make a motion to leave the public hearing open. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any other business before we propose to close?
No.
Seeing none, I will make a motion to close this meeting of the Zoning Board of Appeals for the month of September 2020. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Night Tuckahoe, and thank everybody very much.